Finally, we're going to look at one last technique for solving quadratic equations, and it is called the quadratic formula. The formula at the very top of your screen runs off of a general quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Really, that just means put all your terms in order on one side of the equation, and once you do, those particular numerical values for a, b, and c will go into the formula at the top right of your screen, negative b plus minus square root. You'll recognize that as the discriminant, b squared minus 4 times a times c, and then all of that gets divided by 2 times a. Let's look at our first example at the top left. Use the quadratic formula to solve the equation 2x squared minus x minus 1 equals 0. First, always check to make sure all your terms are on one side and in order. Once you've verified that, for this particular equation, a is 2, b is negative 1, c is also negative 1. Carefully substitute your values in. Negative b, sometimes you have back-to-back negatives, so it's negative b value plus minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c. I've highlighted the numbers under the square root radical because that's the discriminant. Get that total before you ever try to take a square root, because sometimes the number, like in this case, our discriminant is 9, it comes out to a perfect square, which is square rootable, in this case 3. Sometimes it is not. It could be a number like 17, and you can't take an exact square root of 17, nor can you reduce it. So again, get the discriminant value first, and then if your square root of that number works out to a whole number, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't have to. Okay, so let's simplify. Top left is positive 1. Discriminant is 9. 2 times 2, our denominator is 4. Square root of 9 is 3. So we have 1 plus or minus 3, all divided by 4. When you add, 1 plus 3 is 4, divided by 4 is 1. When you subtract, 1 minus 3 is negative 2, divided by 4, that's negative half. So the two solutions to this quadratic equation are 1 and negative half. The example to your top right, we have a quadratic equation 9x squared plus 30x plus 25 equals 0. Go in order. A is 9, B is 30, C is 25. Substituting into the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. Over 2 times a, 2 times 9. The upper left is negative 30. The discriminant, highlighted in pink, that's 900 minus another 900, 0. Remember, when our discriminant is 0, we only expect one answer. Using quadratic formula, the square root of 0 is 0. 18 is our denominator, and because that goes away, the plus minus goes with it. Negative 30 over 18 reduces to negative 5/3. That's only one solution to that equation. Our next example, 2x squared minus 7x plus 4. Everything's in order and on one side, so a is 2, b is negative 7, c is 4. Minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. So that's negative 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4, all over 2 times 2, which is your a value. The upper left, two negatives make a positive 7. The denominator is 4. The discriminant, highlighted in green, that's 49 minus 32, which is 17. 17 is a prime number, and it's not a perfect square, so that is as far as that radical will go, which is okay. The two answers to this particular equation are 7 plus square root of 17 all over 4, and 7 minus square root of 17 all over 4. Our last example, we have 2 plus 2x minus x squared equals 0. All the terms are on one side, but they are scrambled and not in particular order. If you wanted to rewrite this equation where everything's in order, you could write it as negative x squared plus 2x plus 2 equals 0. As long as you know your a is the coefficient of the x squared term, we know that's negative 1. B is the coefficient of x, which is 2. And c is your constant. That's also a 2. Subbing those values into the quadratic formula, x equals negative 2 plus or minus 2 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times 2 all over 2 times negative 1. The upper left simplifies to negative 2. So does the denominator. The discriminant highlighted in pink, that's 4 plus 8, which is 12. 12 is not a perfect square, but it has a perfect square factor of 4. 12 you can write as 4 times 3. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 3 has to be left there. Can't do anything with it. And that's okay. So the radical reduces to 2 square root of 3. These two negatives, negative divided by negative makes a positive. Plus minus divided by a negative is still plus minus. You got two signs dividing by a negative, you're still going to have two signs. I do want to point out that these two answers are fine, but if you catch all three numbers that are out in the open, in other words, not the square root part of it, but if these other three can all be reduced, and they're all number 2, so you can reduce them all to 1s. If you divide everything by 2, you reduce them all to 1s. A denominator of 1 does not have to be written, so this actually simplifies all the way down to 1 plus square root of 3 and 1 minus square root of 3. These are your two answers. This original problem doesn't factor with whole numbers, so the answers are going to look pretty ridiculous. 1 plus square root of 3, 1 minus square root of 3. Those are the two solutions to this particular equation.